episode of our little web series, Conversations with the Blank Experiment. We are going over our latest release, Conversations, which is available on all streaming platforms. Um, we are here with Brandon Nelson, who wrote our piece, Solid, Liquid, Gas, Plasma. And we're so excited to have him here to do this Zoom call because we're all been probably really used to doing these virtual chats across the board in our daily lives.
Yeah, thank you for joining us.
It's nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
So, going back to solid, liquid, gas, plasma, what can you tell us about the piece? What was your inspiration for writing it?
Well, I work in the medical sciences, so I sometimes try to find ways to integrate that creatively with my compositions. And I thought, well, let's do something really elemental, something really basic to everything, the states of matter, solid, liquid, gas, and plasma, obviously being the four, and trying to figure out ways that I could convey those musically, which was an interesting creative challenge, especially with your instrumentation.
Yeah, so going along with that, you're one of the first composers to write for instrumentation, which at the time was saxophone, clarinet, and harp. How was it writing for an instrumentation that previously had no music for it?
I thought it was stimulating because, it is so new. It does stretch your ear a little bit to try to figure out combinations that will work well, especially with the harp. I'm not a harpist, obviously. I've studied the harp as a composer. I still think I was pretty hard on her with my harp part. I kind of want to apologize a little bit, but it did. She played it very well, and I thought it came off effectively in the recording, which I was glad for. So yeah, it was a unique ensemble to write for, and I'm glad I had a chance to do it.
Yeah, so what problems did you find with the harp? Because that's something we don't see quite a lot in these small, new music chamber ensembles. So what problems arose in the compositional process?
Usually, what I found was just writing it so that it would cut through the texture. Because sometimes that can be hard to tell depending on what register of the harp you're in and exactly what technical demands you're making of the instrument. So I rely a lot on the performer, actually. I lean a lot that way. I provide the basic scaffolding and then I say, okay, make this happen. And your harpist did that beautifully.
And then the other two instruments, you decided to use tenor saxophone and bass clarinet. Why did you choose those two particular instruments?
I choose the tenor sax because I think it gets ignored too often. We always hear the alto sax, even the bari sax we hear some from, but I think the tenor sax is just such a lovely timbre and it needs more exposure, I think.
Speaking my language.
yeah. It's one of my favorite voices, as is the bass clarinet. So I figured, well, let's try that combination with the harp. And of course, there's different registers that you can explore. And I did, I think, the high register, middle register, low registers. You get all kinds of timbres, even in the context of three voices.
So going back to even before the compositional process started, how did you hear about our ensemble?
I think you told me about it because I had worked with you before.
And, we worked together back in, 2015 on a solo tenor saxophone work.
Right, exactly.
So
I think that was the first time. I'm sorry. I think that was the first time I had heard Drew play. It was a piece at your senior recital, I think, in high school.
Yeah, I did 2 senior recitals in high school. It was the first of the 2.
Okay, because I remember when I heard it, and then when we brought up the idea of bringing Brandon in, or we reached out, I was like, oh, I've already heard a few of his pieces already, so I was already a fan.
Well, thank you.
How did you two meet each other then, Drew and Brandon?
I believe we met through the social media web that is New Music.
Oh, okay.
I think I actually met through your sister originally.
Oh, my friend Bella. That was it. You had known Bella, and she introduced you. Bella is someone I went to high school with. So.
Okay.
Yes, and
then such a long time ago.
Yes, and then on my senior recital, I actually did play one of your pieces as well. Your saxophone quartet. One of your saxophone quartets.
Yep. One of the sax quartets you did.
Ended
Mhm.
up not knowing I was doing the world premiere of that until after the concert, actually. So that was fun.
You
Which
did a great job.
oh, thank you so much. So we've had a history of working together,
Right.
and you've been writing some great pieces. So, Ava, do you kind of want to go into the next phase of the blank experiment?
So on Twitter, you've announced that you're going to be writing a piece for us with our new instrumentation. So do you have anything that you want to like talk about with that?
Sure. Um, I've recently been doing some reading on pre-Columbian history of Latin America, what we call Latin America now, particularly the Aztecs. Um, what fascinated me the most was the omens that were predicting the coming invasion, and it was a lot of fear. And so there's actually 8 different omens that were seen or felt before Cortez even came ashore. So I thought this would make an interesting piece of music to convey all of those different emotions, all those different omens, using the new instrumentation. I'm particularly excited about the oboe because I feel like I don't get to write for the oboe enough either. So I think I'll have some fun with that.
So, which instruments are you? So, you're going to be using oboe, B flat, clarinet, and which saxophone will you be using?
Maybe the tenor sax again. And I really like the tenor sax. I
Yeah,
think I
I
can.
I have no problems with
Drew
that.
won't argue with that.
Yes, yeah, you're. I will not fight with you for that.
Loves his tenor sax.
Yes. Well, is there anything else you wanted to add about the previous piece, the upcoming piece?
Well, I've been looking around since you told me about this meeting for the original sketches for the first piece, and I can't find them. I do. You probably can't see it very well on Zoom, but I came up with this index of all the possible rhythm patterns from 3 pulses to 9 pulses. And what I did was I cross-referenced them to different pitch sets in order to come up with the raw materials for the solid liquid gas plasma. I'm just regretting I can't find the sketches to see exactly how I molded that. Sometimes I just finish the piece and I move on right to the next one, and then I tend to forget because I'm old and forgetful. So that was kind of how I put together that piece. The newer piece, I want to experiment a little more with aleatoric techniques within different contexts. Some things that Mort Feldman had experimented with graph scores, and some different techniques using rhythmic isolation with pitch restrictions, and just different ways of expressing different kinds of moods rather than just writing all the notes down on the paper, which is fine. I have no problem with that either.
So, going back to you talking about the compositional process for the piece, if you actually look at the finished score for it, you have solid, liquid, gas, plasma notate in different parts of the score, and those are accompanied by very drastic shifts in tempo. How did you go about trying to, I guess, convey each of those musically?
Well, for like solid, I wanted something that would come back almost cold and brittle, like like a solid, like a piece of ice maybe. That so you'll notice that there are a lot of rhythm patterns that repeat a lot of ostinatos, a lot of hard accents. And then I go to liquid, which is more mellifluous. I slow it down a little bit. It's smoother texture. And I go into gas, which is loud, but it's spaced far apart of the events. And then for plasma, this is less familiar to people typically. Plasma is like the material that make up lightning bolts and electricity. So I wanted something that was just kind of raucous and fast and out of control almost. So that's how I kind of came up with the 4 different phases instrumentally and compositionally.
Okay. Well, great. Does anybody have anything else?
Yeah, I have a question about how, with such a weird instrumentation, how you battled slash kind of worked with the balance of the instrumentation when you have like the tenor sax against the harp.
That was hard. But again, I like kind of weird things like that. I think it stimulates creativity to create these unusual situations, and then your brain has to figure out how to make this work musically into a satisfying musical process. Um, there was a lot of trial and error. Exactly, what registers would work against which register of the other instrument, what I can get away with technically. Yeah, so that's just kind of a part of the process, an intrinsic part of the process in writing for anything, whether it's for concert band, choir, or for the blank experiment. Uh, that you just have to figure out how the instruments will work together comfortably and what won't work so well that you eliminate.
Mhm.
So I found that to be really actually one of the more rewarding parts of the process is working with an unusual instrumentation and making that a satisfying musical piece, hopefully.
As
I think
someone
it's
who was,
cool.
oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Well, as someone who was not a part of this album, I thought you did like a great job at bringing those instruments together. I thought the bass clarinet and the tenor sax just like blended together really well, and the harp just like, I don't know, like melded with those two and brought them together, and I thought it like just floated together and really like, I don't know, I
It's
felt like,
cohesive.
yeah, it was cohesive. I
Uh,
like felt floaty while listening to it.
And it's cool because you figured
Yeah.
it out without there's no playbook.
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah.
There's
exactly.
nothing to work off of, no reference of, there's one piece that exists.
And it worked. I succeeded. I'm
Yeah,
glad
you
to
did.
hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I
good
think
to hear.
yeah, you did a fantastic job, I think, at really making it seem like a cohesive unit. All three of us as almost this massive monstrosity of an instrument, which I think worked super well with the piece.
Thank you.
So, do we have anything else?
Well, I was, I guess going through the process with us, I'm not sure, like, I guess, what your background has been with just going through this kind of recording process or even being involved maybe in similar projects. But I'm just curious, maybe, like, did you yield any experience just from going through this with us or was there benefit to you with having the recording and whatnot done?
Yeah, I've not been. I don't have a lot of experience with the commercial recording aspect of what we do. Um, Mostly, what I do and what I have done is just I write the music and then it goes out into the world, and I don't really control what happens after that.
Mm-hmm.
So it was nice to see the next step of the process and to
Mhm.
be a part of how the nuts and bolts of that work. That was also very rewarding to me.
Great. Well, if we don't have anything else, thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us for our conversation.
Thanks for
And
having me.
yes, you can find Brandon Nelson. Where can people find you?
Well, I'm on Facebook. I have a Facebook page, Brandon Nelson Composer. I'm on Twitter at Brandon J. Nelson. Those are probably your best bets there. I am on Instagram, brandon.nelson.composer. Um, yeah, so you could pursue any of those three venues if you want to get a hold of me.
Great. And you can hear his piece, Solid Liquid Gas Plasma, on our debut album, Conversations by the Blank Experiment. And without further ado, we will play the piece, and we hope you enjoy. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you. you.